Hey, welcome back to another Just 5 Mins. How long is this going to carry on for? Well, maybe longer than WebRush. That's what I'm going to go for. I'm going to try to go at least longer than WebRush, which, by the way, isn't a slate. It's a really good podcast, but it was John Papa, Dan Wallin, and I forgot the other people. But it was all about front end development and stuff like that. But they've had a pause, which is fair enough. They've gone through a lot of episodes. But anyway, so what are we talking about today? Well, we are talking about it's the .NET world. So if you're not interested in .NET, you could turn off right this second. But this is using .NET Aspire. And if you don't know what .NET Aspire is, there's lots out there. I think I did an episode on it. It's essentially Microsoft's way of having orchestration for building distributed systems, ultimately. So it makes it a lot easier to pull in things like Redis cache, or I used to keep calling it Redis. Redis cache, RabbitMQ, and it basically containerizes all of that, but it does it all for you in the background, and it makes it really easy to build these distributed systems. And I'm hesitant to say microservices because you don't have to just be dealing with microservices. So, you can use it even with relatively simple applications. But the key thing is, when you talk about adding message queue, caching, all sorts of different things, database services or specialized database services like vector databases and things like that, of course, you can just connect to them as you've always been able to. But Aspire basically orchestrates all of that, and it's got a lot of clever stuff with open telemetry and allowing you to easily there's really a nice dashboard about what's running, what the logs are looking like, and all of that. Anyway, it's a whole subject in itself, but this is particularly it jumped out because I've been building quite a few Azure functions of late. Probably very basic ones and not really anything to write home about, as they say. But what we've got now, I think you need to be on the latest version of Visual Studio 2022, which is still preview, even though we're in 2025. It's still a preview version. I think you need version 17.3 from memory, and as part of that, you've got a couple of new template options when you create like file new project in Visual Studio. And by the way, if you don't know what Azure functions are, well, that's a whole different thing in itself as well. They are like little micro applications. So instead of, if you're building like a really simple API, one endpoint, two endpoints, or something silly like that, or more, you can actually build fairly in-depth, complex applications or infrastructure with Azure functions. But instead of this running as a full application, technically on a VM or some sort of app service or something like that, these functions, literally, the function itself is spin up. I mean, ultimately underneath it still spins up a micro VM to run that function. And there's the whole world around that as well. But interestingly, we've now got Aspire and Azure functions together, which I think is actually quite a good move, really, because a function, an Azure function, AWS have got Lambda and Google have got theirs and all the rest of it. But obviously the idea is these are individual, discrete, distinct functions that they don't have to be just API driven. They can be timer based. They can have all sorts of other different bindings, as they call it. But having Azure Functions with Aspire is quite clever, I think, because you can sort of start to pull in multiple Azure Functions with Aspire and have that orchestration. Now, I've forgotten the name right now, but I forgot what it was. There was the Azure Durable Functions. That was it, I think. And that was a way of doing the orchestration of multiple functions, making sure that that function passes data to this function, whatever it might be, you know. So I'm just wondering now if .NET Aspire with Azure Functions sort of supersedes that, or is it still a thing? If you know about that, let me know in the comments. But interestingly, because the whole .NET Aspire thing is exploded over the last year or so, for general applications, microservices and everything else, having it with Azure Functions where you can build discrete bits of functionality but still take advantage of things like having a message queue available or a cache available or secrets or a database, where you're not gluing all of this stuff together directly. You're letting .NET Aspire handle that. And again, you've got really good telemetry, really good feedback. You've got a dashboard that tells you the running containers and what the logs are, and you can navigate through that ecosystem a lot more than what you could in the past. But I think it's literally got that edge situation with Azure Functions. And again, a lot of people say, oh, well, then you're tied into Azure. Well, you're tied into some sort of infrastructure regardless, unless you're going to run it on just your home PC and never do anything else with it. You're going to be running it somewhere. So Azure Functions, .NET Aspire, actually quite an interesting one. I'll put a few links in the show notes, but that's what I've got this time around. So that'll do for this time, and I'm going to say have a good day or a week, and hope you get up to some interesting stuff, and take care out there, and we will catch you on the next one. Okay, bye for now.